Salve omnes, it's Magister Compton again, and today we are going to be talking about the present subjunctive, the first of the four tenses that we're going to be dealing with in this chapter. Notice there are only four tenses. There is no future tense, there is no future perfect tense, because the wishy possibility nature of the subjunctive already puts it in the future, possible future, or the future we'd wish for. So we don't really need a future subjunctive. So take a look at these indicative verbs in the present tense. We've got amas from amo, amare, first conjugation. Maneo from maneo, manere, second conjugation. Petit from peto, petere, third conjugation. Facimus from faceo, facere, third conjugation, io. And audiunt from audeo, audire, fourth conjugation. So these are the forms of the verbs that you've known since chapter 2. You've used these verbs throughout the last year and a half, year and 3/4, or in some cases 2 3/4 years. So these are the ones that you are most familiar with. But now we're going to show you what they look like when they become present subjunctive. So we have ames and maneam and petat and faciamus and audiant. Same verbs, same endings, so same person and number, but something changed about it to make it look different. So now we know it's a present subjunctive. So let's look at these side by side now. So amas becomes ames. So we note the A from the first conjugation turns into an E. And then maneo becomes maneam. Remember I said in the last video, we will not use O to show first person singular in the subjunctive ever. We always will use M. So the E turns into an EA. And then because it's EA, we have to get rid of the O and make it an M for first person singular. And then petit, again, third conjugation verb, becomes petat. So that I turns into an A. Facimus becomes faciamus, so we insert an extra A sound after the I, between the I and the mus. And then audiunt becomes audiant, so that U turns into an A. And we would do the same thing for all the other forms. We would have an I and an A, and then the ending. So how do we get that? How do we come up with that? Well, here's the rule. First thing we do is we take off the O from the first principal part. This is going to work for every conjugation. First, second, third IO, fourth. Doesn't matter. We take away the O from the first part and we will get the stem that we want to do what's next. Then we're going to add the following letter to make the stem. So the letter is going to change based on the conjugation of the verb. So first conjugation is going to become an E. Second conjugation is going to become an EA. Third conjugation will be an A. Third IO's going to, and fourth conjugations will both have IA. In the case of second and third IO and fourth, you're not adding an extra E or an extra I. Those vowels are already there. What you're doing is really adding an A. So if you really wanted to get down to the most basic, first conjugation, take off the O and add an E. Everything else, take off an O and add an A. That's the simplest way we can make it. Add an E in place of the O for first, add an A for everything else. And we've got some mnemonics to help remember this. So, some of these would be like, we beat a giant. So you see the E, the EA, the A, the IA in succession. I've also heard we beat a liar. For those of you who don't like the violence but like to do something a bit more daring, you can say, let's steal a Fiat. So again, you have the E, EA, A, and IA in succession. Another one, let's steal a Kia. That used to be the popular one until fiats got to be well known again. So either way, you have the same vowels, E, EA, and IA. And for those of you who don't like crime in any capacity, you can instead use she wears a tiara. So E, EA, and IA once again in succession. So that reminds you what vowel to use for each conjugation based on if it's the first underline, the second, the third, or the fourth. Okay. Sum, of course, is always going to be the outlier because it's always got to be weird. It's an irregular. So here's what the subjunctive of sum looks like in the present. So you have sim, sis, sit, simus, situs, sint. But even being weird, there's still something of a pattern to it, even more so than it was in the indicative. Remember, the indicative was sum, then es, then est. And so we had sometimes it was su and sometimes it was es. You just had to memorize it. Here, it's very straightforward. It's si, and then add the endings mst, mustis, nt. That's it. One thing you're going to see about the subjunctive, once it finds a pattern, it sticks to it. It will not change that pattern. It will not make exceptions. It will not deviate. It will stick to that pattern. So in some ways, the subjunctive is easier than the conjugations we did before. I've literally had students who told me, why didn't we do this first? This is so much easier than doing the indicative. In some ways it is. The reason we don't do it first is because if you're going to use the subjunctive, that means writing complex sentences with extra clauses and things like that. You don't want to do that as Latin 1s and 2s, or at least Latin 1s. You are 2s, so you are doing this. Normally this is a Latin 3 topic, by the way, so good on you, how smart you are. All right, what about the passive? Nope, no problem. Take off the active ending, add the passive ending. That's it. So examples, petat becomes petatur. Just change the T to T-U-R. No problem. Ames, ameris. Again, take off the S, add the ris. No problem. The reason why there's no problem is because A and E pretty much work with everything. They don't have any enemies, they don't have any beef, they don't have any sounds that they interfere with. So there's no need to make changes. There's no need to make exceptions. Like I said, the subjunctive doesn't do that. Once it finds a pattern, it sticks to it. And as also I said in the last video, we don't have to worry about translation. Next chapter, we will talk about what you would do if you saw one of these by itself in a sentence. But for right now, just make sure you know what you're looking for. So again, use one of those mnemonics like we beat a giant or let's steal a fiat or she wears a tiara to remind you of the vowels that are going to be used. And also remember the present subjunctive of sum, as you see here. You're going to be seeing that in a little bit, so don't forget it. Okay? And that's it for the present subjunctive. Next up is going to be the imperfect subjunctive, what I personally think is the easiest tense conjugation to do in the entirety of the Latin language. But until then, valete omnes.